All right. Scratchy.
Yes, neighbor.
Yeah, Scratchy. So clearly, Scratchy. As is most things in Jamaica, politics gets involved. But don't you get the sense, Scratchy, that it's time for, maybe not time for, but that the government will have to assert itself and push through this bill so that the reconstruction can start and that the funding can start. Don't you get the feeling that the government needs to itself be pushing this forward, and despite the obstructions and concerns, that it has to lead the process of making sure that this bill goes through parliament?
Definitely, neighbor. This is not, as protecting said, neighbor. This is not the first, neighbor, where we have seen bill come to the parliament, neighbor, the opposition or civil society or private groups, neighbor, try to downplay or try to push back or rebuttal against it, neighbor. And we must also let the viewers understand, neighbor, that whenever a bill is introduced, neighbor, outsiders also have a say, neighbor, in giving it, whether they want to add any amendment or stuff like that. They are given a chance. Certain civil society groups are given a chance, neighbor, to be a part of the process. So when a bill is being passed, neighbor, it's an all-inclusive process, neighbor. It's not just government persons who just come and speak on it and whatever. Once an amendment is prescribed and it make any sense, then the government will definitely have to subscribe to that, neighbor, and work with it. But I don't think, neighbor, based on the importance of this bill, neighbor, I don't think the opposition have any chance of stopping this bill. Come next week in Parliament, we're going to see a full house, because that's when the voting is expected to go on. So we're going to see a full house come next week, neighbor. As I said before, it is a majority rule bill. You don't need any members of the opposition to vote for this bill for it to be passed, neighbor. The government members of the majority in the Parliament, they can pass the bill. Government members of the majority in the Senate, they can pass this bill, neighbor. The only way the People's National Party can hold up this bill right now or try to stop this bill, neighbor, is if it's from a legality standpoint, neighbor. And I am pretty sure that the technocrats, neighbor, who are constructing this bill, neighbor, they are making sure, neighbor, that there's no contradiction, there's no impeding on any part of our constitution, there's no impeding on any law, any other laws or anything, neighbor. And NaRRA will definitely pass, neighbor, whether the People's National Party likes it or not. It's a majority rule bill, and the majority of the persons are the Jamaica Labour Party who holds that majority right now. So I don't see them stopping it, neighbor. I don't see the PNP stopping it. I know, neighbor, it is a bill that is being pushed by none other person, neighbor, than the Prime Minister himself, the office of the Prime Minister. So I think, neighbor, Cabinet understands how important this bill is, neighbor. Our some members also understand how important this bill is. And everyone will come to Parliament come next week, neighbor, ready and waiting, neighbor, to say their eyes, neighbor, in the passing of this bill, neighbor. The opposition is a minority. They can't stop it. And as I said before, it's only from a legal standpoint right now this bill can be stopped. And I am not I'm not savvy in the legal part of it, neighbor. But if there is anything I would ensure, neighbor, that the Prime Minister and his team is looking at that, neighbor, to make sure that nothing stops this bill going forward. We need NaRRA, neighbor. We cannot reconstruct Jamaica in the time that we want to reconstruct Jamaica. We cannot reconstruct Jamaica, neighbor, in the way that we want to reconstruct Jamaica in its present format, with the present laws that are on our books right now, neighbor. They are time wasting, neighbor. They waste times. And with time wasting, neighbor, it also has an additional cost because inflation increased. The price of today is not the price of tomorrow.
Yes.
So we have to make sure, neighbor, that we pass these bills, we pass these things in a timely manner. We have to make sure, neighbor, that the necessary things that needs to be done, all the necessary agencies and departments are under one who can pass this bill, neighbor. And I have no problem, neighbor. I think one of the main things that the PNP have, neighbor, is the power that they think that NaRRA will directly report to the Prime Minister. I think that is also one of their issues that they have, neighbor, because anything that has to do with this Prime Minister, the PNP try to knock it down as if he's the first or the first person to ever bring up anything like this. So NaRRA is the game changer, neighbor. NaRRA is what Jamaica needs to move forward. NaRRA is what Jamaica wants, neighbor, and no opposition is going to stop this, neighbor. For too long, we have allowed the opposition, neighbor, to slow our growth, neighbor. We have allowed the opposition to stop our growth, neighbor. We have allowed the opposition, neighbor, to sink Jamaica in a deep hole, neighbor. We have allowed the opposition in the party, neighbor, to sink us in dire poverty. We are not just the opposition, neighbor. They're proxies because they know, neighbor, that they cannot do it all by themselves. So what they do, neighbor, is get their proxies. I won't call anyone personally, but when you look at the media, they use their proxies in the media, they use their proxies in civil society, and they use them proxies, neighbor, in a whole lot of organizations to come, neighbor, and try to push as if the NaRRA bill is something that Jamaica cannot manage or is something that Jamaica don't need. Based on the loan, neighbor, that the Jamaica government took or that the Jamaica government had, neighbor, it is a loan over a 3-year period, neighbor. We have to make sure that it is transparent. We have to make sure, neighbor, that it is dollar for dollar is done, neighbor, because this is a loan, and this is not a loan where you get from any other regular person, neighbor. This is a loan from global multilateral agencies, neighbor. They are going to be watching, neighbor. They're going to be making sure that we spend this money, neighbor, in the right way, shape, or form. They are going to be ensuring that we get dollar benefit for every single dollar that we spend. And NaRRA is what we need for that, neighbor. We should use the current format that we have in place.
The current legislative framework will not allow us to get that money.
Will not allow us to get that money, neighbor. The current legislative framework, neighbor, will not allow us to draw down on that money in a timely manner, neighbor. It will not allow that money to be spent in a timely manner, neighbor. And it will allow costs to be continue going up, because if you budget for something, neighbor, this year, come next year and the next 2 years, not the same budget, you're going to have to increase your budget, neighbor.
Yes.
Because the price of goods and services has increased as a result of inflation. So the People's National Party, neighbor, and its proxy groups and persons who support the opposition, neighbor, who continue to talk bad about NaRRA, what I would advise the PNP, and I don't want normally give the PNP any advice, neighbor, but my reason for giving the PNP any advice this time is for the advancement of Jamaica and for the development of Jamaica. What I would say to the PNP is, for over the weekend, come with proper amendments, come with proper things that you think could be added to enhance the bill. Don't try come and fight the bill and stop the bill in its totality. See how best what you can add to the bill to make this bill more advanced, to what you can come to the table with as a collective group, neighbor, to see how we can push this bill forward. And don't try to give the narrative as if the government is creating this bill so that they can be corrupted, so that they can bypass surveillance systems, so that they neighbor, this NaRRA bill is going to be more transparent than any other thing, because I can tell you, neighbor, this is funding from multilateral agency, and if we don't make use of this funding, neighbor, and come the next, God forbid, the next 10, 15 years, we should get another Hurricane Melissa, neighbor. I can tell you that the support that we got at this time, we will not get that support, neighbor, because persons are going to say that we played with their funding, we wasted their funding, we stole their funding, and we're a corrupt country, neighbor. And that is where we are coming from. And we have seen that mindset out of multilateral agencies, that they are willing now to give us these advanced loan in this quantity and these amount, neighbor. And we must thank and respect that, neighbor, and know that NaRRA is going to be transparent. NaRRA is going to be for every single person can have an understanding of what is going on. And what I would advise any well-thinking persons or the PNP, neighbor, who continue to try, go and see how best you guys can advise your constituency members to go to art and get a skill in whichever area or capacity that NaRRA might need them. Go learn construction, go learn plumbing, go learn people over the teeth, push your constituency. Tell your constituency that there's this new big program coming called NaRRA with the highest development, the highest development of the highest level of development in the history of Jamaica from a monetary standpoint. Advance your constituency member, push them in the art, make people go in a country so that they can benefit from NaRRA instead of trying to tear down NaRRA. NaRRA is about a lot of cash, and it takes cash to care, and a lot of cash will be spending, and instead of us going overseas for some of the small services that we could have used our own systems for, train your constituency members in these areas, PNP. Majority of what needs to be done in NaRRA is in PNP-run constituencies. Train your constituency member. Pressure the government as a whole. You can get art to fast track some training so that when time NaRRA starts, the constituency members can benefit instead of coming and trying to tear down the NaRRA bill in its totality and make it look like this bill is the worst thing that has ever happened in the history of Jamaica. Neighbor, I have all faith and I have a trust in NaRRA, neighbor. And I know that, neighbor, NaRRA is something that we need to move forward because we cannot wait. Because based on how climate change is moving right now, neighbor,
Yes.
we have to make sure that we complete this in a very timely manner, and complete it not just in a timely manner, neighbor, but in a way, neighbor, that we get best value for money. Because if we should wait and start any form of construction and see another major storm come 2-3 years time, all of that construction will be eroded, all of that progress will be eroded. PNP, neighbor, I don't know why these guys are so difficult. I don't know why PNP don't understand these simple things. And I think they do, but it's just politics. And PNP don't realize that in 2026, led by the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor, right now in power, led by Jamaica Loners and the cabinet, neighbor, the advancement and the development of Jamaica, this cabinet, neighbor, don't see color. This cabinet don't see green, and they don't see orange, neighbor. All this cabinet see is how we can make Jamaica greater, how we can make Jamaica better, how we can advance Jamaicans' life. It is full-time, neighbor. We have persons who are not choosing any, whenever persons go to dispose or go to do certain things, neighbor, persons can do it in a way that has pride, neighbor, and has some form of dignity. We have too many of our citizens, neighbor, living in shambles. We have too many of our citizens, neighbor, living in farmer settlements, neighbor, and certain personal things, neighbor, like toiletries are using our bathrooms and stuff like that, neighbor. Those are basic things that we should have in 2026.
Yeah.
A lot of these neighbor, they still don't have these things.
Yeah.
So PNP need to stop, fight the development and the advancement of the people of Jamaica, man, and leave the people alone, PNP, and the people them live. The people deserve better.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, Scratchy, before I get to protecting. We're 16 after the 14 minutes to 10 o'clock. The Jamaican reality, Scratchy. Here in Jamaica, we have to ask ourselves, have we reached, or when are we going to reach that level of political maturity? Because Scratchy, too often our politics remains trapped in 5-year cycles. Government proposes, opposition opposes. Not always because it is wrong, but because that's how we practice our politics. And that is where development slows, Scratchy, because it is not a lack of ideas in Jamaica. It is because we are not aligned, Scratchy. Don't we have a moment in our history, Scratchy, where I and you, I'm a little older than you, but when in our lifetime have we had this opportunity where multilaterals are prepared to pump so much money into our country, Scratchy, to drive us forward? Why can't we seize this moment as a country and just come together, Scratchy? If even for the next 2 years, we can't do it beyond us?
Yeah, but all I can say, neighbor, that this present time, neighbor, this present moment, neighbor, is a pivotal time, neighbor, in the advancement and development of Jamaica. And if we should miss this mark right now, if we should let this time pass, neighbor, and we don't do what we are supposed to do, neighbor, my granny would have said, dog, nyam what's up, neighbor.
Boy, I tell you.
Dog, nyam what's up, neighbor. It is full-time, neighbor, for Jamaicans, neighbor, to stop see development from a political standpoint.
Yes.
Stop believe that because it's not your political organization that do it, it is no good. Stop believe that it's not because of the man who you support that do it, it is no good. Stop. Whatever NaRRA is bringing is for the well-being of every single Jamaican, whether you're a PNP or a Labour, right? So it doesn't matter who is in government, neighbor, right now, or who's in power right now.
No matter.
Stop, neighbor. And this is my problem that I have with Jamaica, neighbor, because we think Jamaica is in a situation, or at least some of these things, neighbor, some of these mad arguments can faster and go so far and strive. Because well-thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, remain silent, neighbor. But, neighbor, negativity or violence or whatever, neighbor, strive because the few would refrain from speaking out, neighbor. And if we, as the well-thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, continue to remain silent on these things, neighbor, persons are going to think that it is okay and it is right. Versus we never want to, you cannot allow. Neighbor, Andrew Holness alone cannot be the man who worry about everything and come and say, no, this is good, this is good, this is
dead
good.
right.
It's him a do it because I must say good because it's him.
Dead right, sir. Dead right. And don't you think, Scratchy, that political activism from the Jamaica Labour Party is needed now too? To push back against some, yeah?
Political activism from the Jamaica Labour Party has been lacking for the past couple of years, neighbor. I don't know why. And political activism, neighbor, don't mean it has to be a strong man. It don't mean you have to be someone who is illegal.
It's forming pressure groups to talk.
It is forming pressure groups, neighbor. It's forming a combative group, neighbor, who can combat things in a way, neighbor, where the common person can understand that his rubbish is coming from the opposition.
Yes.
We need these type of things, neighbor. We need to see these persons come out and be more bold.
Yes.
Be more
like all next week when the bill will pass a parliament, 2,000 people, well, now here will be 2,000, but 500-600 people turn up down there with placards saying, pass NaRRA.
Pass NaRRA, no. Pass NaRRA, no.
Yes.
NaRRA, no, but we are not seeing these things, neighbor. We are not seeing these things from well-thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, because if you don't give them 5,000 each to go to parliament, they're not going.
Yeah, or flood the Gleaner with letters and observer. Pass NaRRA.
Letters and observers, neighbor. The people in
Jamaica. Call talk shows.
Neighbor, the persons in Jamaica who know good and want good, neighbor, we have to speak out. We have been silent for too long. And it is our constant, it was our silence, neighbor, that caused PNP to rule us in the 90s, neighbor. It was our silence, neighbor, that caused the PNP to get away with so much corruption, neighbor. It was our silence, neighbor, that caused the PNP, neighbor, to do so much destruction to us, neighbor. It was our silence that caused the PNP to win 4 consecutive elections.
Yes.
Because we were too silent. They used political violence against us back in the days to silence us. Now political violence is a thing of the past. Well-thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, need to come out and be more vocal.
Well, I'm calling up on the neighbor rights tonight, sir, to post it. Post it on them. They must make a video. All of you.
Neighbor,
NaRRA.
Talk about something good that is going on in your country. That doesn't mean you're a labor right.
Thank you.
You don't have to be a labor right to talk about something good that is going on in your country. You need to make sure that you're patriotic Jamaican and you're a plan that you can say to yourself, yes, this plan will definitely advance my country. This plan will definitely make my country stronger and better. You come out and bonify it and big up the program and big up the plan because we have an opposition party here who's neighbor, so once opposition alone continue to speak and they have persons out there in their proxy group who come out and speak on their behalf who are not politician, neighbor, it is always going to seem like, okay, so it's not my goal in alone. I said the program not good.
Correct.
Yeah, people I said the program not good too. But from the Jamaica Labour Party standpoint, the government come out and say the program is good. Who else is out there backing up the government saying it is good?
Not one pressure group. Not one civil society group. None. No union. What happened to the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union?
Neighbor, I don't know what is going on, neighbor, with the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union. I don't know what is going on with all of these groups, neighbor. I don't know why. They look at even young Jamaica and the G2Ks and all of these persons, neighbor. I tell a press release, you know. These guys are these press release. Neighbor, press release not going to Jamaica, not reading nothing.
That's right.
Jamaicans are not reading anything. Cut out this press release and start called press conference. But I get to find out, say, the reason why a lot of them don't want to hold press conference, neighbor, because they hold certain position in society, neighbor, from a professional standpoint, where they cannot come out and be vocal. Then remove yourself from the process then. If you're not a politician, remove yourself, because once you join G2K, you must be all about pushing the narrative of the Jamaica Labour Party. And if your personal life is going to prevent you from doing that, remove yourself from the process. They are in the wrong field.
Big talk, big facts. The moderator would say big facts, big facts. Big facts, Scratchy, big facts.
Yeah, but you're in the wrong field. If you cannot boldly come out and talk about the Jamaica Labour Party being an arm of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Moderator, call a meeting with the neighbor rights them for me then. We need to pressure something.
Your personal life or where you work personally. You need to remove yourself from this process then. Yeah. This is a politician. And once you're a politician, you're a politician.
Big facts. Big facts, Scratchy, big facts. You listen.
They need to remove themselves.
Strong talk. Big facts.
Anyone of you guys in G2K who's a camera and speak about the advancement and the development of Jamaica and the good that the Jamaica
Yeah,
Labour
think I
Party
wrong.
is doing. Because of your professional life, you're in the wrong field. Step away from G2K.
Yeah,
Step away from G2K.
Yeah, you listen, man. You're big on the facts there now.